Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We have a very special guest. We have Stephen Page. I can't wait to dive in and hear about Stephen's story. I literally just met you 30 seconds ago, so this is going to be brand new to me as well as to everyone that's listening. Stephen, where are you right now in the United States?
So I'm in a little town called Pace, Florida, right here next to Pensacola, Florida, here in the northwestern part of the state.
Gotcha. And is this a place where you grew up?
It is. I was actually born and raised here.
Born and raised. And do you love it there?
Oh, I absolutely do love it here. I've been all over in my time here. I've been all over the states. I've been all over the world. I love to travel, but I lived in Texas for quite a while. I've been all over the place in the military, but I ended up coming back home, and I've been here. Well, I've been back here since 2017. So love it here.
Gotcha. Well, today is Veterans Day. I want to, thank everybody for joining us. Let us know where you're watching from, where you're tuning in from. We'd love to know. So Stephen, this is a gift having you today on Veterans Day because you served.
Yes, sir.
What branch of the service were you a part of?
I was in the Army.
All right. And when did you go into the Army?
I went in actually. Funny story. I actually left high school to join the Army. For me, it was a calling. I left in 2003, and I joined the military in 2003. I left high school in 2002, and left and went in the military, and actually joined up in the Army at 17 years old, and actually turned 18 already in the military. So,
wow. How old do you have to be to join the Army? 18?
Well, technically 18, but if your dad signs for you or your mom signs for you, you can be 17. And I guess, my dad signed for me.
Wow. So were you at a point in your life where this was a good step for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was the rebel kid, if you will, into all kinds of things, and joining up was definitely a life changer for me. Really taught me a lot more about respect and camaraderie and friendship and all the things that go along with being part of a team. Whereas, as the youngster that I was growing up to be, I had a lot of that, but not enough, I think. And I ended up getting involved in a lot of things that, young kids do, just making stupid choices as a kid, and so yeah, getting in the military is definitely an awesome thing to do.
Gotcha. So did some of those stupid things involve like alcohol and drugs or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I came out of the military both an alcoholic and a drug addict, believe it or not. And
out of the military. So
Yep.
While you were in the military, you were taking part in that.
Towards the end of it, yeah. I mean, I wasn't a crazed addict or anything like that. But once I got out, I definitely was. I walked down a really, really dark path in my life, and got involved in a lot of things, and drugs first and foremost. And I was addicted to several different things, and luckily, by the grace of God and some amazing parents, I made it out of that dark path and got clean. I've now been clean since 2007.
Wow.
So quite a while now. So.
And so, okay, that's hey, way to be. Love it. Absolutely. And so 2007, you're back. I guess you're no longer with the Army. Is that correct?
Correct.
In 2007. And so then what are you doing now? Or like, what did you do with your time? Did you work, go to school?
Yeah. So absolutely. So I was definitely working. I did all kinds of different things from in between that time and to now. Mostly I've driven trucks over the road, both in the oil field and over the road for that matter. Anybody that knows anything about driving trucks, and because I also did some of that while I was in the military as well, and anybody that knows anything about that knows that it's a very, very unhealthy lifestyle. It's a very, very sedentary lifestyle. The food that you get to eat on the road is extremely unhealthy, unless you start making the right choices, that is. And so a lot of that is what kind of, there was a lot of things going on mentally speaking that once you start to become more and more unhealthy, that really, really affects a lot of different parts of your mind and your mentality, your emotions, and just your literal your well-being, your state of well-being. And I see some people down here commenting that they're over the road truck driver. That's absolutely awesome. My hat's off to y'all because I understand what it is to do that. Um, so yeah, most time that I've done that right now, currently, I actually work for a stage company. We do mobile stages all over the country for different concerts, and so a lot of driving as well. Not quite as much as it was doing over the road stuff, but yeah, so a lot of being gone.
So tell me this: as a when you were a truck driver and still doing some of that, what do you do to pass the time?
Well, a lot of for me personally, I like to do audio books.
Yep.
I've listened to several different books, especially recently, as of recent, starting on this plant based journey that I've begun down.
Which we're going to talk all about.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
don't go anywhere. We need to talk about this incredible transformation that Stephen's been on. But I want to get to know Stephen a little bit more before we jump into that. So yeah. So
Yeah.
audiobooks.
Yeah, so definitely lots and lots of audiobooks. You don't really have anything but to stare out of a windshield. So audiobooks, podcasts, lots of podcasts. When I first got into truck driving, podcasts weren't a thing because,
Yeah.
really cell phones weren't a thing. So, a lot of technology is really made the life of a truck driver pretty interesting. Before that, it was, a lot of talking to people on the road via CB radio or listening to the radio, or, back then it was talk radio, a lot of talk radio. I was raised up with my dad. My dad loved talk radio. And so, like, when I was a kid, like, things like that were kind of unnerving, but nowadays I'm like, I just want more of it. So I was always that guy. I was like, I was the kid that was always telling my dad, well, I'm going to be nothing like you. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And the older I get, the more I realize that I am my dad made over, and I love it, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
That's great. Is your dad still alive?
He is not. He passed in 2019. He had a major heart attack. Brought on. He had interstitial lung disease due to the Agent Orange from Vietnam. He was stationed down in Guam, where all that was actually stored at, and had a bunch of issues with that. But he also had type 2 diabetes, which brought on a myriad of complications. And he just had a massive heart attack, and we lost him back in December 17th of 2019. So,
yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Sounds like he was a great figure in your life. Very important one.
He was, and also a veteran. So a lot of
that
led me to where I am now.
Yeah, absolutely. Did he also drive trucks at all, or no?
No, he didn't. He was he built things, whether it been in general contracting or in home building. He did both.
All right. So growing up in your family with your dad, mom, did you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have one sister. She's 3.5 years older than me.
Okay. Did you guys eat any particular way?
I know that we'll end up talking about this more later, but the standard American diet, the SAD diet, growing up, that's pretty much how we ate. My parents cooked, or well, I should say both my parents cooked. My mom cooked most of our meals, but my dad cooked a lot as well. He loved to cook. Growing up in the South, in those times, it was home cooked meals mostly. If we did go out to eat, it was for a special occasion or just an every now and again kind of thing. So mostly we ate at home, and we ate lots of good food. Not necessarily what I eat 100% now. Obviously, I'm on a plant-based diet now, but my parents did feed us really well, and we ate healthy. As far as we had a lot of plant diversity. I also was part of the generation where what was sat down on the table in front of you, that's what you're having. And if you don't want that, you're going to sit there until it's gone. And if you sit there all night, so be it.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
these days, there's so much catering to kids going on, and if you don't want this, we'll give you that, or if you don't want that, we'll give you this. And yeah, it was not that way for us.
Yeah, no, it's definitely changed somewhat, or so it seems in my circles for sure. Uh, um, okay, so you decided to make this transformation. I think was it this year that you decided that you were going to do something?
June 15th.
Oh, you remember the day. We love that. We love that.
For the day, I remember the last thing I ate, everything.
Wow. All right, so June 15th. So describe for me and let everybody know, where was Stephen on June 14th, 2022, that led to this kind of like, okay, I gotta pull a 180 here.
So in May, the month before, actually, kind of have to go back a whole month to really explain it. An exact month before, May the 15th, I believe it was. It May 13th, 14th, 15th, somewhere in there of May. I had blood work done at the VA because I'm a veteran. So I go to the VA for all of my medical stuff. And I had my blood work done. And I have a really awesome doctor out there. He is absolutely amazing. And whenever he does blood work, I mean, it's like several vials of blood work. He does full blood workups. Every single time I see him once a year, it is full workups, the whole work. So he did everything that you can think of. Now, mind you, for several years, I've seen my blood work kind of go downhill. I started to see 5.6, 5.8, 6.0 in my A1C.
Uh-huh. And can we stop for a sec?
Yep.
So for people that don't know, an A1C is basically, it's an indication of the amount of sugar that's kind of hanging on to your blood cells. And 5.7 or under is considered normal. And once you get above that, you start to basically get flagged as being pre-diabetic and then even diabetic, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So we had talks about being pre-diabetic, and he had me, should I say, wanted me taking metformin and watching my food intake and this, that, and the other. And I had not followed through with that at all. And I thought that I knew better and that I was going to just do my best to eat what I thought at the time was healthier, which ended up not being. But leading up to this time, a couple months before that, I'd started losing some weight. And I thought that was a good indicator. This is why now, and I'll get more into this later, but this is why now I tell people, do not watch the scale as an indicator for your health, because it will lie to you. Whether you're getting heavier or getting lighter, both directions, it will lie to you. So I'd started losing weight and thought that was a good thing. I had my appointment in May, and I was like, man, I'm going to go do this blood work. He's going to see I've lost all this weight. It's going to be awesome. Because like, he's always like, he shoots me straight. He's absolutely honest to his core.
What were you, but you were losing weight, but what were you doing to lose weight?
So all the wrong things. So apparently went in, got my blood work done, went in, saw the doctor, and the doctor was like, man, you're a train wreck. Like that was my nickname for my doctor, was a train wreck. Because I was 36 years old at the time. 36 years old. He was like, you're falling apart. Your blood work has never been this bad. It's horrible. And, you've lost weight, but for all the wrong reasons. You've lost weight because your body's literally drastically unhealthy. My A1C went from a 6.8 all the way up to a 10.7.
Oh, man. Yeah.
In a year. And, I mean, that's unheard of.
That's ridiculous. What about, do you know like some of your other numbers, like cholesterol, LDL, some of that stuff?
Yeah, give me just one. Actually, I have them right here on my phone. I keep all this just for reasons like this.
Well, I'd love to know that, if you have your blood pressure, if you knew what was your weight at the highest as well. I mean,
so at my highest in 2016, I was over 300 pounds. Right now I'm down in the mid 190s right now.
Wow.
So from then I've lost quite a bit, but my cholesterol was 183. My HDL was 28. No, excuse me. Cholesterol was 183. HDL was 28 LDL was 100. My ALT, which is your liver enzymes, was a 90, which is extremely elevated. My AST was 61, and my triglycerides were 236, with a fasting blood sugar of 247.
Yeah. Yeah.
So extremely high numbers.
Absolutely. Okay. So this is I guess May, you said, is kind of what led you to June. So why don't you continue with that story?
So June, we had an event coming up in North Dakota. And so I was spending lots and lots of time just driving back and forth from Florida to North Dakota, Florida to North Dakota, back and forth. And a friend of mine posted the What the Health video on Facebook. And when you're laying down at night, as a truck driver, you have to take a 10-hour break every night.
Uh-huh.
So I'm laying there. I'm like, I ain't got nothing better to do. I'm going to watch this and just see it. I love documentaries. It doesn't matter what the documentary's on. I just love documentaries. And so I started watching this. And at first I'm like, I don't know, there might be some truth to this. So me being the person that I am, I start researching. And a lot of times whenever you watch a documentary or you watch something, whether it's true or not, you kind of have to dig to find the truth. And it may have been fashioned in such a way that the truth was brought to you in that documentary the way that the documenter wanted you to see it. But with What the Health, it was just cold, hard facts. Like, you didn't even have to search that hard to find the truth. Like, it was just right there, blatantly easy to find.
Yep.
And I was just blown away by that. And so I started looking up other documentaries because, if you go on Netflix and you're on, you're watching a documentary and you finish it, at the end, it'll give you other documentaries that are like this one.
Yeah.
And so the next one was Game Changers.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit. And so June 15th, I watched Game Changers, and it was a game changer. That was it. I was done. Like, because all the facts that are in that, like, as the movie's going on, I'm like sitting there on my phone just looking up all these different things. And I'm like, wow, this is real stuff. Like I wonder, I know all my numbers are absolutely horrible, so maybe this could help me. I've tried all the other diets. I've done keto. I've done, all these different, going straight rabbit and just eating lettuce and stuff. All these things that are completely and totally not able to stick with, I've done all those things and none of it obviously worked.
What was your experience with keto, and how long did you do that for?
So the ketogenic diet, whenever a few years back, 2017, whenever we moved here, I got really big into lifting weights and going to the gym. Like me, I was going to the gym like several hours a day, several days a week. And so a lot of the stuff that you read nowadays is getting an overload of protein and cutting down on the sugars, cutting down all your intake. Well, not your intake, but cutting down your fat in your body and replacing it with muscle by way of eating fat and eating protein. And because it somehow magically transports protein, I'm like, no, it doesn't work, because your body thrives off of carbs. We're literally created to eat carbs for energy. And so when you're starving your body, I mean, yeah, it'll give you a false sense that it works, because you will lose a fat percentage in your body. You absolutely will, because now your body's eating it for energy. But why does it need to eat that for energy when it'll get rid of it naturally if you give it the energy it needs? Mm-hmm. So I say I probably stuck with it for, at the very longest, probably 6 to 8 months, most. And after that, it was, I'm gonna have a cheat day. And a cheat day turns into a cheat week. A cheat week turns into a cheat month, and then you're no longer on a diet.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, so you saw the Game Changers after What the Health, and you're inspired. And so June 15th, is that when you decided I'm all in? And what did you eat? How'd you make it happen?
Yeah. So, actually talking to Corey, I was talking to him, and we were talking about this whole transformation, the changes that I made and everything. And I literally, the first time I talked to him, I was like, well, I went cold turkey. And he's like, you know what a better term is you went cold kale.
Yeah.
And so we went with that. So I literally, June 15th, I went cold kale completely until I switched plant based. Like, I mean, 100%. No dairy, no eggs, no meat, no plant derivatives, no animal derivatives, all plant 100%, like overnight. Um, I started telling my family. My family was kind of like, I don't know, we'll see what happens, and this, that, and the other. But my wife has been super, super supportive this entire time, no matter what. And so she even has found ways to cook recipes for me
Good.
to eat, and do things to make sure that I'm able to do this. And so I made the change overnight, June 15th. And as you know, like I was saying earlier, being on the road, it's very, very difficult to find good food as a truck driver. You can't just take your semi to the local grocery store every day
Yeah.
and buy food to eat. So you have to find creative ways. So I made sure that I go to truck stops that offer fresh fruit as an option. I go to truck stops, and you can get a salad. It may have an egg in it, but you can always toss the egg out, and or toss the bacon pack that comes with it or whatever. And whenever you are at Walmart, get you your own salad dressing, that you can use, or do whatever you got to do to cut down the fats, cut down on the oil intake, cut down on all the processed junk. Um,
Yeah.
and I listened to a lot to Dr. Will Bolshewitz from Fiber Fueled.
Yep.
And one of the best things that he explained was taking apple juice, applesauce, and a whole apple. And he goes through and breaks that down and talks about how one is completely processed, one's half processed, and one's completely unprocessed, and the health benefits or the lack thereof. And that really struck a chord with me, because I understood, because I love to eat fruits, and how eating whole foods and eating those plants really, really helps. Like, yeah, you can have a smoothie. It's not going to be the end of the world. By all means, have a smoothie, do whatever, that's fine. But eat as much whole food as you possibly can. So I just started doing that. And um, one of the things that I think that everybody goes through whenever they try to make this transition is they're looking for those old flavors that they used to have.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where the impossible meats were born from. And that's where all these ideas were born from, is people are looking for those flavors that they're so used to. And they want to still have those flavors, but they want the health benefits of not eating meat. One thing I had to learn is that this is not a diet. This is a lifestyle. This is a way of life. And it will not only will it change your physical being, your body, your weight, your looks, everything that goes along with that, and because of that, your mentality, but it literally changes your taste buds. It changes how you look at food, how you approach food. It'll change how you season your food. Now whenever I eat vegetables, my wife will put me, my favorite thing is carrots, mushrooms, and broccoli.
Hmm.
She'll put it in the steamer. She'll steam it. We won't season it. She'll just give it to me. I'll eat it. And because it tastes good. My taste buds have completely changed, and it tastes good. So I don't have to have a bunch of seasoning to make it taste good, because it naturally is made to taste good if your taste buds are correctly being utilized.
What does a typical breakfast look like for you?
So recently, I guess another thing I kind of have to go back to explain, if that's all right.
Sure.
So I was really big on fruit for breakfast. I did say was for a reason. I'll get to that in a second. But fruit was one of my favorites. Oatmeal. I love oatmeal. I really, really like taking oatmeal and changing into all different kinds of things, with whether I'm adding fruit to it, whether I'm adding maybe a little bit of flavor to it, or whatever I'm doing, but in different ways to make oatmeal really good, because I just love oatmeal. I love banana pancakes. I had them for the first time. I was out of town, and I cannot remember to save my life where I was at, but I was out of town, and I had banana pancakes at this little place where you go and you sit down, and they have a little flat top out there on your table, and they literally bring you all the ingredients, and you cook your own breakfast. And
Ah.
a lot of people are against that because they're like, well, I don't want to go to a restaurant, pay for food, and me have to cook it. But hey, I don't know, it's the thing, and I enjoyed it. But
That
so
sounds really cool. You remember the name of that place?
I cannot save my life. I don't even remember what city I was in, to be urban
Uh,
because
yeah.
I literally travel all over the country.
Wow.
Half
Yeah.
these times I forget half the places I've been.
Yeah. So tell me this. You started, how soon was it before you started to notice some changes and you're like, hey, you know what? I think there's something to this.
Day three. Day
Wow.
three. Um,
And what happened? How did you notice? What was
the
going
first
on?
the first 2 days, I was kind of really kind of just didn't really feel that great because my body was just that quickly just trying to remove all those toxins from my body and remove all that fat from my blood, and it was just trying to get out all the bad stuff so it could start taking in all the good stuff. And day three, um, the issue you have whenever you have type 2 diabetes, for those that don't know, um, type 2 diabetes is whenever there's so much fat that has gotten into your muscle tissue that the insulin receptors can no longer communicate with the insulin that your body secretes to allow sugar into your muscle tissue to be used for energy.
Yeah, into your cells. Yeah.
And when that happens, you have a buildup of sugar in your bloodstream. And so your blood goes through your kidneys. And whenever it's high on sugar, your kidneys basically, for lack of to make it easiest to explain, your kidneys go into overdrive to try to remove all that sugar, which is extremely harmful for your kidneys. It can almost be toxic for your kidneys. And so that's why type 2 diabetics end up with so many kidney problems. But so all that sugar gets removed and you just start dumping it out in your urine. That's why a lot of type 2 diabetics,
Yeah.
type 1.5 and pre-diabetics, that's why they have the issue of having to get up and use the bathroom all night long. And for me, it got to its worst whenever I was getting up. I would get up, 10 to 12 times in a night to use the bathroom. Like, I mean, I was dumping sugar bad. Um, and so that was one of the first things I noticed. Like, all of a sudden, I could sleep all the way through the night without having to get up to use the bathroom, literally within a few days.
Well, that's got to feel good too. Now you're sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. So you have all these amazing side effects, and now you're sleeping. So what happens whenever you're sleeping? Your metabolism starts working again because you're healing your gut. Your gut and your metabolism are obviously one and one. They're right there with each other. And so as I start getting more sleep, my metabolism starts working. I start losing weight. Um, whenever my first weight that I actually took whenever I started doing this, I was around 227 pounds. Whenever I first started this June 15th, I was somewhere around there, around 227, I believe it was. And I just started losing roughly about a pound a week. Doctors, nutritionists, and dietitians will all tell you about a half a pound a week is good. If you're up to about a pound a week, that's some people unheard of. And I stayed at a pound a week until I got down in the mid 190s, which is where I'm at right now, and I'm pretty much been staying there. My ideal body weight is around 175, 176.
Yep.
And I could get there because I'm 6 foot tall. So I know that I could get there. Um, I need to add in a little bit more exercise. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm the most exercising person that there is because I'm honestly not, but I am trying. So
Well, good. Well, good. And we may have a solution for you too there, or at least a lot of support that we can talk about here in a sec. All right. So what about meds? I mean, you mentioned metformin. Were you on any other medications?
yeah, so metformin was for the diabetes, and they ended up switching me over to a Synjardy, which is a metformin and empagliflozin combination. It's a combo pill for diabetes. Also, I was on a blood pressure medication. I was on rosuvastatin, which is a cholesterol medication, which is very not good for you. Then I was also taking upwards of about 1,000 milligrams of dietary potassium a day.
Yeah.
because I was just not getting potassium in I would always get leg cramps in the middle of the night. I'd wake up with cramps. My wife would have to spend hours on end literally trying to work knots out in my legs that had been created from me being unhealthy. And let's see, I want to say it's about it. It was mostly blood pressure, cholesterol, and metformin, and then one other diabetic medication.
So you're on a good handful plus worth
Yeah.
of medications. And then how long was it before you got to either titrate down or get rid of those completely?
So 7 days in, I was able to cut out the blood pressure medication. That was the first to go because I had actually been in talks. Literally the day that June 15th, I had my first consultation over the phone with my clinical pharmacist. And she was the first person I actually told about the fact as far as my medical team goes. She's one of the first people that I told about that, hey, I'm going plant-based and we're going to see what happens. But my goal is to come off all my medications. And
did she say you're crazy?
Well, just like I was about to say, just like any medical professional, she didn't quite say that I was crazy, but she had the right response for being a medical professional. She's like, I mean, those are really good goals to have, and we're gonna watch things and see how they go, and so a week into it, I end up having to call her back, and I'm like, look, I'm having some orthostatic hypotension.
Will you explain to people that don't know what that is?
Yeah. Absolutely. So orthostatic hypotension is whenever you get a low blood pressure and you get up too fast or you move too quickly, the blood from your brain actually shifts so fast that it actually throws off your balance and it makes you kind of dizzy a little bit, so to speak. So you'll notice if any of y'all ever have low blood pressure issues and you get up from a chair, from a seated position really, really quick, and you get dizzy, that's what that is, orthostatic hypotension. And it can be caused from several different things, not just from the issue that I was having, but it can be caused from several different issues. And if you are having an issue, that I definitely recommend talking with your doctor about it. But for me, it was because the blood pressure medication was actually dropping my blood pressure too much, because now I'm eating healthy, my body's healing itself, and my blood pressure in 1 week went back to normal. I was having blood pressures in the 140s and 150s over 110s and 120s. I mean, like very high blood pressure. And because of that, she decided to take me off because of that orthostatic hypotension. And my blood pressure has been normal ever since.
Wow, that's really great. Okay, and so the other medication. So how many are you on right now? Any?
Okay, there's my camera. Zero.
That must feel really good. And so how long did it take before you were off all your medications? A couple months?
So let me see. The next medication that I came off of was the rosuvastatin. After 3 months, we did a revisit for my blood work.
Yep.
And we saw that my cholesterol went from 183 down to 93.
That's with the statin, right?
That was with the statin on a plant-based diet.
Got it. So just to level set, so your pre-number was 183.
Correct.
And I was thinking, well, 183 is actually not so bad, but that was on a statin. And then so when you went plant-based, you're still on the same amount of statin. You're now down to 93. Correct. So basically the food alone pretty much brought you down almost 90 points.
Correct. Because I was already on the rosuvastatin before the blood work.
Yep. Got it. Yeah. Good.
So I was still obviously with an extremely high cholesterol, even on a medication. So my HDL went from 28 to 26, and my LDL went from 100 to 49.
Wow.
So I've had many comments about the HDL being 26, but I also have learned that every single person's body is different, and the amount of medication that you need, the amount of HDL cholesterol that your body needs, is your body's going to create that as it is needed.
Right.
So whenever you go plant-based, you're going to start realizing that your body's going to create what it needs. And as long as everything else is normal, then you don't have to worry.
No, and to that point, you said I think your HDL is now what, 26? Is that what you said?
Correct.
26. But look what your total is, right? Your total's below 100. And so
Yep.
when your total gets down that low, all fractions, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides typically come down substantially. And that HDL is so low because you don't have such a mess in your kitchen anymore, and you get to fire all these great kind of mopper uppers that are cleaning house, right? So
That's right.
congratulations to you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. My triglycerides are down to 131 right now.
Yeah. Perfect. We want you under 150, 131. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you're off the meds. You're down now about what, 40-ish pounds
Yes.
from when you started in June. Yep. Yep. And what do the other doctors say? I mean, the one that I think it was the doctor from the VA.
Yeah. So I ended up having an appointment with him. Basically, after all this blood work was done, I had an appointment with him for another reason. I had to get a follow up for something else that had happened. And so, being that I was in there anyways, he wanted to do a follow up on my blood work. And so he starts looking, so I walk in the door with him. Forgive me if you hear my dog in the background.
Does he or she need to be let out? Is she
No,
okay?
my wife just left, and he's not okay with that.
Yeah, yeah, got it.
He's a mama's boy to the core. So, but no. So I see somebody talking about their CPAP machine down at the bottom.
Did you have one of those?
Really quickly, yes. So I had sleep apnea so bad, like I mean horribly bad. To the point that there were some nights that my wife would literally wake me up to get me to start breathing again.
Oh gosh.
And so I slept with a CPAP, not routinely like I should have. But I did have one. I was supposed to be using it, but I wasn't using it as much as I was supposed to be because I was unhealthy and I didn't care about my health. But that has definitely been an amazing side effect. Is I now have 99% blood oxygen saturation at night while I sleep.
That's huge.
And no CPAP.
Yep, that's great. So no CPAP. You don't have to get up 10 times during the night to go pee. So you're sounds like you're sleeping great, and you're probably waking up feeling a lot more rested.
Yeah, I feel a lot more rested. Back to what I was saying earlier, I went to the doctor because that's something he's been really big on is CPAP and sleep and obviously getting oxygenated at night. And I went back and I walk in the door and he's like, "Oh man, you're a train wreck, man. Why do I have to keep seeing you in my office and this, that, and the other?" And I was like, "Have you seen my blood work?" And he was like, "Yeah, I know about your blood work. It's all bad. It's all bad." And this, that, and the other. I'm like, no, I've had recent blood work. You need to go look at it like right now. And so he did. And he just kind of looks over at me and looks back and looks over and looks back. And he's like, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "This is unheard of. Nobody drops from." So I went from a 10.7 A1C down to a 6.4 A1C. And he's like, "This is unheard of. Nobody drops that many points in 3 months." And I was like, well, I did it in 2 months because it was from June to August. And the point from May to June, I was still eating meat and still eating unhealthy and everything else. So technically I did it in 2 months, and he just was like mind blown. He didn't know what to think.
Yeah.
He was like, "This is crazy." He starts going through all the numbers with me and what that means. And so I start telling him about the medications. I'm like, "Well, I'm not on a blood pressure medication anymore. I'm not on a cholesterol medication anymore because the clinical pharmacist, because he's the one that actually prescribed me everything, but the clinical pharmacist has the power to add or take away as she sees fit."
Yeah.
And so she's the one that actually took me off of them, and he's just like, "She did what? You're a type 2 diabetic and she took you off all this, that, and the other." And I'm like, "Well, look at my numbers." And he starts going through the numbers and looks at my cholesterol, and he's like, "Well, I guess she was right." So you really don't need this, you really don't need that. And at this time I was still on my metformin. The original plan was to come off the metformin in February of next year, because that's the next time I'm going to have blood work done. And so we did a 3-month blood work, and then we're going to push it out. Since I was doing so well, we're going to push it out to 6 months. She's like, "Stay on the metformin and we'll see how you do through February. And if you're doing good in February, we'll take you off of it." So she calls me back. She calls me every couple of weeks to just check in on me, see how I'm doing and make sure everything's still on the up and up. And So I had been talking with her back and forth, and she called me for one of my follow-ups, and I was checking my blood sugar like religiously, like I was obsessed with it, honestly, because it was getting so good. And I was seeing fasting blood sugars under 100. And for a type 2 diabetic that just had an A1C of 10.7 coming down to 6.4, like, having a fasting blood sugar under 100 coming from 247, which is what
Yeah.
is just crazy. And so I start telling her this, and I'm like, my blood sugars are staying in such and such parameters, and I'm watching them. And she's like, well, you know what? Go ahead and just stop the metformin. She's like, I don't think you need it anymore. And she was like, telling me how I just made her day, made her year. She's like, you don't understand. In the health field, I've been doing this for 15 years. And she's like, I never get to take people off medication. I'm always adding medication, and upping their doses and adding another medication. And she's like, this is the first time in my career that I've been able to take somebody completely off of all their medications. And she's like, I've never done this before in 15 years.
Yeah. Well, as you can see here, we have people that are pretty pumped. Everybody hit the like button. On point, plan strong. Kudos to your wife as well. And I love the fact that you're changing the mindset of the medical field, right? I mean, you have to show them what's possible, and then they will then present this as an option to some other patients that they have, right?
That's right. Yeah, I talked to my dietitian also, because whenever you get diabetes and you get it as bad as I had it, and your A1C is, 10 or better, you're talking to all the doctors at that point. They're getting you on with a diabetes specialist, a dietitian, a nutritionist, a clinical pharmacist. I had this list of doctors that I had to follow up with. And that was one of the ones that called me, was the dietitian. And the dietitian is telling me about all this different stuff that I need to start eating, and this, that, and the other that I need to do. And so I let her give me her little spiel, and it was all really great and planned out and well executed. So then when she was done, I started explaining. I was like, well, this is what I've started doing. And at this point, I think I'd been plant-based for like maybe 4 weeks at this point.
Yeah.
And I started explaining her this, that, and the other. And by the end of it, she's like, so what are the name of those documentaries?
Yeah.
And she's like, so I've really got to go watch all this. And, because I'm at this point, the only things that I really had to go off of was the fact I'm losing weight, I'm getting energy, I'm sleeping at night, and my blood sugars are going down, my blood pressure is going down. All the things that I can measure outside of blood work, outside of my blood sugar, because that was the only blood that I was checking. And so she was just like, these numbers are crazy. If plant-based will do this, I need to be looking into this. And, by the end of it, I had her asking me more questions than I was asking her. Yeah. And it was really, really cool to be able to help, like you said, be able to start changing the minds. Cause there's things that can be done for people out there that don't include medications, that don't include a medical plan. There's many things out there that absolutely do need to include a medical plan. And I'm not, faulting the medical field by any means, because there's things out there that 100% I think you need to follow up with a doctor. And I'll never speak against that.
Let me ask you this. You said you've been sober since about 2007. Mm-hmm. And, I'd like to know, so kicking alcohol and whatever drugs you might have been on, how did that compare to you kicking the standard American diet, pork chops, barbecue, burgers, cheese, all that?
Oof, you would say barbecue. Man, barbecue, that's a hard one. So, funny story. I actually own a barbecue company.
Oh, well, how about that?
So, here locally, we actually own a food truck. It's a barbecue company. Uh-huh. And
are you still selling barbecue?
Yeah. So we do catering and whatnot. And actually recently, I just got back from Texas last weekend. I actually went there for a big barbecue deal there in Texas. And I went to look up a local company in Austin, Texas called Leroy and Lewis Barbecue, because they actually make cauliflower burnt ends. And so I've been looking for ways to incorporate vegetables into what I eat, and being able to, still enjoy something kind of barbecue. And so I went and tried their cauliflower burn-ins, and it was just like some of the most amazing stuff I'd ever tasted ever. It was just unreal.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to another collaboration nearby there. Um, and one of the things that they had was an Asian, or excuse me, a South American inspired asparagus. And it was, again, some of the best asparagus that I've ever tried. So, there's ways to incorporate plants into the foods that we eat. But the issue that we have is whenever we've eaten a standard American diet for so long, we get accustomed to eating certain things. Like I was a meat eater, like through and through. There was days where we would get together with friends and it would literally, we'd have like a meat day, like literally breakfast, lunch, and dinner would be meats of some sort, mostly beef or pork or something to that effect. And I mean, like we would just like eat nothing, like no sides, just meat. And
The carnivore diet.
yeah, literally hardcore carnivore diet. So there was times whenever that would be all that we would eat. And it's very, very hard because your body starts to get hooked on those just like it's a drug. There's literally receptors in our brain that turn on that are affected, especially like dairy is a really good one to talk about because of that. Dairy links to the same receptor in our brain that heroin does.
Yeah.
And it literally can become addictive. That's why people can't get enough cheese. And that's really what somebody's talking about your cravings definitely change down there in the bottom. And that's a fact. I used to crave cheese. Like I was milk. Like there was times there for a while that, I used to think that it was a good thing. I'd tell people, I'm like, well, I drink almost a gallon of milk a day because I literally did. I was literally almost drinking a gallon of milk a day. I would sit there and put, a half a cup of cheese on 8 different pieces of toast. And that's like what, 4 cups of cheese. That's a ridiculous amount of cheese, and I'd eat that in one sitting.
Oh my gosh. No, Stephen, just to level set for people so they know how many calories are in cheese. So an 8-ounce glass of whole milk is 150 calories. An 8-ounce glass of, let's just say, melted cheddar cheese is 960 calories. It's almost 6.5, 7x what a glass of milk is. And you were doing, that's crazy.
An ungodly amount. Yeah, it was crazy. And my weight was telling it. My blood work was showing it. And I would like to say that it was super difficult because for some people it is. But again, I revert back to my previous statement. Everybody's different. But for me, I literally quit overnight. And I'm the type person that whenever I make my mind up on something, I'm just done. Like I don't need any coaxing. I don't need to be coached. I don't need somebody to tell me what to do or tell me what not to do. I just need the facts in front of me. And that's what happened is I got the facts in front of me. And that was it. I was done. And
so you're saying it wasn't that hard because you'd made your mind up?
yeah, it really wasn't. I had made my mind up and I was just done. The same thing can be said for whenever I gave up drugs and alcohol. Whenever I was just done, I was just done. And that was it.
Yeah.
I used to be a cigarette smoker years ago. And I did the same thing. I bought a pack of cigarettes one day and I smoked one of them. And I was just like, you know what? I don't want this anymore. And I threw them out the window going down the interstate one day and never looked back, never picked up another one and haven't yet.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a couple more questions, and then I'd love to actually just take some questions from our audience, if that
Absolutely.
sounds good. So, we have some people that said they're just starting out on this journey, and it's really important to them. What advice would you give to somebody that's kind of just dipping their toe in this lifestyle? They're unhealthy right now, and they're looking for that promised land that a lot of us talk about. It's there, but for them, it may seem a long ways away.
I get that question probably more than any question that I get is.
Have you figured out how to answer it?
I really have, actually.
Okay.
The one way that I will tell anybody that asks the question of where do I start, what do I do, is don't try to make it overcomplicated.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is give up dairy. First and foremost, get rid of dairy out of your diet as much as humanly possible. because dairy is, like you said, obviously the concentration of bad calories is just unreal. It's unheard of. Um, and then understand that there's other things that you can eat plant wise that can replace your meat in your meals. You know, the one thing that we see talked about on social media nowadays, in the news nowadays, amongst friends while we're out at outings, is how expensive everything is nowadays. If you cut out all the meat and all the dairy and the eggs that you buy at the grocery market every single week,
Yeah.
your grocery bill will drop tremendously. It is an absolute falsehood. Please hear me whenever I say this. It is an absolute falsehood that eating plant based is more expensive than not. It is absolutely false. I can go and I can literally fill up my grocery cart for a fraction of what it used to cost me now, because I buy bulk groceries. I don't go buy, I'm not looking for the labeled, impossible meats and all the different things. I'm looking for cucumbers, bell peppers, rice, grains, beans, bulk dry beans that I can cook at home myself. Um, I do get some canned stuff as well, but I try to get as much bulk stuff as I possibly can. You'll realize that you're filling up your cart. We talk about that all the time. I see it all the time. People are posting pictures online and they have this cart that the bottom of it's barely even covered. And they're like, this is costing me $200. And for $200, I can have my cart almost full to the top with plants.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So don't try to overcomplicate it. Just try to keep it simple and understand that you don't have to do it all in one day. I didn't do it all in one day.
Yeah. I think that's great advice, Stephen, is keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. I tell people, find one or two breakfasts that you like. That's really easy. It's a slam dunk. 2 or 3 lunches, 5 to 7 dinners, and then just rotate around those, right? And just like knock it out of the park, and then start to broaden your horizon if you want to. So, what's your next goal? Like, what are you reaching? I think I heard you said that you're a little too sedentary and you want to start doing some exercise. Is that right?
Yeah. So definitely exercise. So I started just hang on, buddy. Sorry, my dog is right here with me. He's here for the podcast, y'all. But but so I started, obviously I just wanted to start eating healthy. That was my biggest thing. So I did. I switched over to a plant-based lifestyle. From plant-based lifestyle, I got off all of my medications. From getting off all of somebody said love hummus. You're my new favorite person. Hummus is one of my favorite things to eat, period. That's one of my, you're talking about earlier, find something you can stick with, and hummus is one of those for me. I could eat that stuff every day. But and from there I started doing intermittent fasting. That's where I was talking about earlier. I said was my favorite for breakfast. So currently I'm in intermittent fasting. I don't usually eat breakfast. I don't eat until about 11:30 every day, and I don't eat past 7 o'clock at night.
So you got a kind of a small window there where
Yep.
you are eating. Got it.
Correct. And so now that I've done that, I've as you take these different steps and you start to get healthier, you'll start to realize that your body gets to a certain point where you won't necessarily plateau, but you won't get much better. You won't get any worse, but you'll just kind of be in this gray area. So if I start upping my exercise, I've noticed that I start losing more weight and getting closer and closer to my ideal weight. So that's definitely one of my next. So I broke my wrist a few weeks back. Actually just went and got a CT scan of it yesterday because they're not 100% sure that it's healing correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go get it checked out, and so I haven't been able to exercise as much as I want to because of that, because you don't realize how much stuff you do with your arms until you can't. And so, yeah, exercising is definitely up there on my list for right now.
Good. Well, so I want to invite you and anybody else that's out there to join Team Plan Strong. It's a community that we started actually just last week. And we're inviting people to come to Austin, Texas to partake in a 5K, half marathon or marathon at the Austin marathon. It's February 19th. You can also do it virtually if people don't want to travel here, but we have we have coaches, we have programming, meaning like workout schedules. We've got all kinds of great, ideas for recipes, for fueling up. It's a fantastic community. You get a shirt, you get training logs, all kinds of fun stuff. So anyway, something to think about. There you go. Fuel your plant strong life. Register today. Yeah. So let's take a couple questions, Stephen. I'm seeing here. I'm looking right now. So this person here has Lorraine Draper says, how do you convince your husband who's on type 2 meds, cholesterol meds, blood pressure meds to go whole food plant-based? How do you convince a guy, right?
I guess for me, I kind of had to self-convince myself, but I would say, have them watch Game Changers with you, if at all possible. What the Health is a great, absolutely great documentary, but Game Changers really breaks it down in a way that a type 2 diabetic can understand, and it will literally be a game changer, because that was what it was for me. But also make them understand that it takes a long time to become a type 2 diabetic. For me, it was about a 10 to 12-year process, but from June until now, I'm on no medication. And it was a lot. It was 90 days to be exact. From June 15th, 90 days from that day is whenever I got completely off all medications. I do still take vitamin B12, vitamin D, and vitamin C, but that's everybody on planet Earth should be taking those. But I completely got off meds in 90 days. So help him understand that he can be completely free of all those meds very, very quickly, comparatively speaking to how long it took to become a diabetic. Yeah. Many times I've seen people try diets and they think that it's something that's going to take forever, and they're going to be drowned in this horrible life of this diet that they don't want to be on. But being whole food plant-based isn't a diet. That's the first thing I tell them. It's a way of life that's going to change everything, and let them understand that it can happen very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's really great advice, Stephen. What I'd also add, Lorraine, is so he doesn't feel like this is like something that he's got to do forever, because that might seem a little bit daunting. Just let him know, hey, let's do this for 3 months, just 3 months. It's an experiment. And then let's see where you are at 3 months, and then let's reevaluate. And that might be something that, a little like a chunk of time that he can get his head wrapped around. So I love comments like this, like Simon Woodington says, isn't it beautiful to be able to eat what you want without regret? I mean,
story.
Yeah. You're liking it, aren't you?
Yeah. I can sit here and eat a ton of fruits and vegetables. Like whenever I get off of this podcast today, I know that I've got a whole tub of watermelon out there in my fridge, and I'm probably going to go devour that because that just sounds really, really good right now. I'll probably have some hummus too. but yeah, I don't regret what I eat. That was one of the things that I found out when I first started this was I thought that I was like eating all this food, because you find out that you start eating a lot of amounts of food, but it's still less calories.
Yeah.
So you feel like you're eating more, but you're really not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's awesome. It really is.
Yeah. This is just a little shameless shout out. Sue Wilkie Howe says, yes, intermittent fasting right now. I'm getting ready to have my favorite first meal, Rips Big Bowl. Have you ever had the Rips Big Bowl cereal?
I have not.
Okay. All right. You need to send me your address. And as a heartfelt thank you to you for being on this Facebook Live, I want to send you a care package with some of our products. Will you accept that?
Absolutely.
All right. Fantastic. Do you have an easy recipe for hummus, or do you buy store-bought?
Yeah, so we definitely make our own. There is a few local places here that have some that I love to buy from time to time, but literally all it is just go to the store. You can either get some chickpeas that are dry and soak them overnight and make them that way, or you can just buy some chickpeas in the can. But just the easiest way to do is go get some chickpeas in the can, Mix it with some tahini, which is it's a kind of like a paste that you get from sesame seeds, basically ground up sesame seeds. And then we use a little bit of lemon, some water, because a lot of people use oil in it, but I try to stay away from oil because I want to stay as low fat as possible.
Yeah.
So I use water where normally people would use oil, because believe it or not, you can cook with water just as easily as you can with oil. One's just slicker than the other. That's the only difference, because one's got fat and one doesn't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
go ahead.
I just want to get through some of these because we got about another minute. Karen Feely says, I need more exercise. Karen, here's the good thing. You know what? There was a study that was recently done, and it showed that just 11 minutes of brisk walking a day can do dramatic things to help prevent cancer, heart disease, obviously increase those feel-good hormones, the endorphins, get those flowing. So don't feel like you need to go out on your exercise bike and do the swimming pool and stuff like that. Just 11 minutes of brisk walking is fantastic and a great way to start. Okay. Let's see here. Simon Woodington he has a lot of great remarks. He says here, I believe that Rip's dad said that recovery isn't that remarkable. It's that we survive so long doing so much damage to our bodies.
That's a fact.
Isn't it? It is remarkable.
I can't even add anything to that. That's a fact.
We are so incredibly resilient as human beings. The abuse that we give our bodies, our brains, our organs, and we just keep getting up and living another day until we don't.
Somehow, amazingly,
it is. Peter Hoffman here at 155 Best said, bless you all. I'm 5 months plant-based. I'm down from 192 pounds to 156, and I'm walking 8 to 12 kilometers every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Way to go, Peter. Hey, well, you know what, Stephen? Our time has come to a close, but you know what? I can't think of a better way for us to have had a Facebook Live on Friday, Veterans Day.
Absolutely.
Than to celebrate it and to honor you. What a fantastic role model you are now across the board. I hope that you really are loving and digging yourself and the road you're on.
Definitely really am. It's been an amazing journey.
Yeah. Thank you, my Plant Strong brother. Hit me up, little fist. Boom. And what's your dog's name?
Red.
I love it. Might be time to take maybe Red out for a walk. I don't know.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna get that 11 minutes in.
There you go. All right. Hey, stay on, Stephen, for a second. Everybody else, keep it plant strong.
Guys, we appreciate y'all more than you know.
Yep.